This thing. Good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to High Top Sports. Happy Monday to all of you. You know I'm going to say it. We got a jam-packed show for you, boys and girls. Zach Albers joins us. Last time he was here, he set the entire internet on fire, okay? Getting us yelled at from all kinds of different directions. People hit me up going, what? I had people who don't text me for information asking me what happened. I go, what I know what happened is what you saw what happened. I don't know what's going on, okay? They thought me and Zach talked after the show. We didn't talk after the show. He just giggled because he knew what he did. He set it on fire and walked away. And we loved it for it. I love him for it. It was a good time. But today, maybe he clears the air a little bit. Maybe he provides some more things. I have questions. We've been talking about the things he's been writing about in regards to all these hires and GM movement. I got questions, and I'm excited we get to break into it a little more. Mr. Stephen Harris will not be joining us today. He's taking his son back to college. So we allowed him the day off, PTO, all in good standing. He'll be in the chat probably talking some smack. So without further ado, this is Zach Albers. How you doing, Zach?
Doing well. Happy New Year to you and all your listeners.
Happy New Year to you as well. And yes, to the listeners. I don't know if you saw, I think you saw a little bit of it was the last time you were here last year, feels like forever ago. You set the whole thing on fire.
Yeah, man. It was, you said you were getting calls and texts. I was getting calls and texts that night, the next day. I don't even think I realized what I had done in the moment, but it quickly found out. It shows how much fans are starving for this kind of information.
Agree. Look, I loved it. I didn't even think about you getting blown up for it. It didn't even cross my mind that
I got some text messages, buddy.
What did you say? You just hit him with the.
I had to tell everybody that hit me up, including some notable people that I couldn't spill the beans at the moment. I told them I would let them know when I could. Today was the day when I've let everybody know. So everybody that texted me that day to ask, I text them back today. So.
Okay, all right. So let's go. Let's break this. Can we break the silence then now, since we're here?
Sure, man. Sure. I'm gonna drum it up a little bit now. I'm not gonna
go ahead.
I'm not gonna just spill the beans. We got to talk about how we got here.
I want the full effect. Like I want the full story. Like phone call. You're on the show. Like I want to tell it. It's platform's yours.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's have fun on here. First of all, before I get into it, everybody make sure you go to Gators Online, subscribe. It's only $1. If you come and check us out, you will not leave. And if you've been reading Gators Online, you guys know about all this stuff. Of course, I'm going to keep my subscribers in the loop first and foremost. But we love to come here on High Top and visit with you guys. And man, Shelton got me at a good time that night. Literally off a phone call to jump on the show. And how that kind of played out was I had heard about this possibility, I want to say in the 24 hours before I came on the show. So that whole day, I'm chasing this lead all day. And then like right before I came on the show, I got a phone call that said that they had talked and that I needed to make some calls about if this thing could actually come together. And at that point, I knew that it was real and it wasn't just like, oh, somebody's interested, but would Florida hear him out? Would Billy hear him out? Like, no, this was something that had steam. So, and because of who it was and because of just the uniqueness of the situation, I was excited. I was excited about the possibility, and I'm still intrigued about how it all came together. And we can talk about once I spill the beans here. I'm teeing this up well. We can talk about, I think, why it's significant and why I even mention it on here, have decided to write about it, because usually when these kind of searches are going down and potential candidates are being talked to, it's not always, that stuff doesn't always need to get out there. Those are private conversations. Sometimes it doesn't need to become public. This was significant. When I heard that former Florida coach Will Muschamp was interested in coming back to Florida potentially, that's just, you don't come across something like that every day in this business. You don't see many Bobby Petrino situations. So, and as you all know, Florida has an opening on its staff at this time. There's the highest paid spot on the staff, which belonged to Austin Armstrong, who had the DC tag. That spot's vacant, and there's a lot of interest in that job. And there's a lot of potential candidates that I've heard about. Nobody that I'm willing to name or report at this time, but Muschamp was different and was significant, and we can kind of get into how it played out and where things stand now. But that was how you caught me that night, and I think you can agree, Shelton, that in the last couple weeks since I came on, if you'd have been scrolling across your X timeline one day and some news just popped across there that Will Muschamp was returning to Florida, I think you would have let out quite the scream.
So we talked about it for quite some time after you came on the show, and we had speculations through the roof. Again, I had people hitting me up that shouldn't hit me up, and they asked, like, I don't know, but I'd be like, hey, what do you think of this? I go, the only thing I think that made me excited would be an OC hire. They're like a DC hire, and I was like, there's one name that would fire me up, and I said this, it's on air. I said, if Will Muschamp came back, it was DC. Will be the only way that I get buck wild with it, because I loved Muschamp when he was our head coach. I go, man, can we just make this guy the DC? Because I love his energy. I mean, the amount of the funds we had to put away, we'd have to start an NIL collected for whiteboards. Wouldn't matter, right? Would have loved that guy. Yeah, so it's funny that, yes, I would have screeched for a Will Muschamp, because I love everything he embodies and what he possesses. But you're going to talk about how it unfolds. I also wanted to kind of poke a little bit too, because a lot of people were talking about this Ron Roberts, like, hey, he called the plays, but he doesn't hold the title of DC. And we've talked with Cam Parker about the possible rumors of him, maybe possibly retiring. That's kind of been a thing floating around a little bit. And the fact that there are multiple people intrigued with the position, I think also kind of puts to rest and leads a lot of people to like, hey, Austin or Ron, either it doesn't intend to be the DC, or either maybe he just stays the role that he's in. Is that kind of the thought process there, since there are multiple people?
I think that kind of plays into where Florida's at right now, and that I think the uncertainty surrounding what you're talking about is maybe why we don't know what direction Florida is going to go, because Ron Roberts is still on staff. For those who aren't familiar with the situation, we've reported on it extensively at Gators Online, but he did call the plays this past season, and not only did Ron Roberts call the plays, he started on the field during the first 3 games and then moved to the box in the 4th game at Mississippi State. When he made that move, it was a game changer for the defense. However, I don't know that was always the plan or the intention when he came to UF, because I do know for a fact that Austin Armstrong ran the defense in the spring, this past spring, when Ron was on staff.
Okay.
He was still the acting defensive coordinator. And if you remember, Shelton, there was a point in a press conference where Billy did say that Austin was going to call the plays.
Earlier on.
So,
yes.
Yeah. So I think when Ron came here as head coach of the defense, which was his title, I don't necessarily know that he came to call plays, or that was like
The intentions
had to
behind
happen.
it.
Yeah, I think it just manifested that way, and certainly as the year evolved, the defense got better, and he did a great job up in the box. I think.
Agreed.
Is that something he wants to keep doing next year, seasons to come? Does he want to maybe fall back to the role that he intended to come to UF for, which was to, coach and be part of game planning, but maybe not have to call the plays on game day? I think all that is being figured out and sorted through, and there is a scenario where somebody comes in and fills the spot that's been vacated by Austin Armstrong, gets that DC tag that he had, gets that salary that he had, and is calling plays as he was going to do. Maybe, Ron moves on, or we don't know what the circumstances would be where he wouldn't be back. But I certainly don't think it's a situation where like he's going to be asked to leave or anything like that. I think the ball, it's up to him. So it's a very interesting situation because how it played out, the uncertainty, and us not really having clarity on who was calling plays until we got it. But here's why I think the Muschamp development is significant. The fact that he is interested, from what I'm told by multiple sources, in becoming a DC again. That's something he has interest in.
Okay.
I think it would take the right situation, the right timing for Muschamp to come out of the role that he's at now in Georgia, based on my understanding. He's got his son at Vanderbilt. There's some other family dynamics there. But I do think that there's interest there in becoming a DC again, or I know that there's interest there. And the fact that was something that he was pursuing, and Florida heard him out and they entertained it, and it was an actual thing, and the UAA was behind it from what I was told, and would have signed off on Muschamp's return. That says that, to me, Billy is willing to shake things up. That I think we all would agree, if Muschamp wanted to come to Florida and everything was right and the scenario worked out, that he would be one of the best candidates that you could bring in as a DC to call plays. And I think Billy would be one of the first to admit that, and shows that, the fact that he even considered it as a possibility is that he's willing to, hey, if something's on the table as an option for me to make Florida better from a coaching standpoint, from whatever, I'm gonna check it out, and I'm gonna pursue it. I think that's important, and also I think it also says something about Napier's ego, that he would even, or lack thereof, that he would even consider it. Let's be honest, some head coaches would not entertain the idea of somebody who used to have their job being added to their staff. That just, most guys wouldn't do that from an ego standpoint, from a pride standpoint, from an uncomfortability standpoint, whatever you want to chalk it up to. And I was told, digging into this, that was not something that even would have phased Billy, or obviously it didn't keep him from looking into this, because it was something that they did. But ultimately, as I reported today at Gators Online, didn't work out. I think that, or I was told from multiple sources, that UAA was behind it. Certainly, I think Napier would have pulled the trigger on it, but it just didn't work out. But these conversations were had. This was a real thing. This wasn't something I exaggerated or came on here to get you guys excited about for no reason. But in the end, I can say that he's no longer a candidate. Let's put it like that.
For sure.
And the good thing for Florida,
no chance.
though,
I can't even pray on it, or.
hey, I mean, never say never, but right now, it's not something that's on the table anymore. But the good thing for Florida, and we can get into it, is there's a lot of interest in the job. A lot.
Okay, so that was gonna two parts. I guess you can't really tell me too much detail of what the because it sounds like a lot of people were kind of in on board with it. Um, the only thing that I could probably assume is that there was probably some stipulations or things that he would like to have done that just probably didn't work out. Is more so probably what happened and why this marriage, beautiful thing, didn't come together. Given the fact that everyone seemed to be on board and there was at least a conversation of like, yeah, I could see this actually being really good, and I
I,
think that would have been
I
incredible.
just think from talking to sources that for Will, it would take the right situation for him to decide to, you know, make the commitment to being a full-time DC again and all that comes with that. And I just, while he was interested in this possibility, once it became open, it just wasn't the right time. You know,
Gotcha.
I don't think it was because nobody did anything wrong or wouldn't compromise. I
Okay.
think everybody, I think everybody wanted it to happen, honestly.
Okay. Fair enough. That makes sense. Yeah, I know because again, like people don't realize. I think I was talking to my Georgia buddy today, just about the Muschamp because obviously he was coaching. He was an analyst at Georgia, but he was on Vandy's staff this year because his son's there. Then he was back at Georgia games. Like, there's definitely a weird nuance going with him trying to probably be involved with his kid's life. So I imagine that's probably still a factor of like how do I manage this, but also do be a DC, which it's very tough. And again, someone with who again, Muschamp carries a lot of that name carries a lot of weight. I've always wondered, why hasn't he gotten back into the limelight of things and kind of has taken the back seat to be a dad, which I love. I think that's cool because that's exactly how it appears to be. But I mean, I can be a son if you need. I'll come hang out, Dad. Come coach the team, baby.
Look, the good thing for Florida is, you know, Will Muschamp is not the only coach in America that can call some pretty good plays on
That's true.
defense.
There's
And
sentimental value there with Muschamp. That was my second part. Is there other names that are intrigued that would make me screech a little bit? Maybe not the Muschamp
uh,
screech.
I, I don't know, not that I've heard of yet, but I definitely know that there's a lot of names that are interested in the job. I reported some details on that today at Gators Online in our war room.
Cool.
And look, the regular season just ended in the NFL, so um, I think that
Okay.
there's a lot of
Zach
candidates
dropping
that
some
could be
bombs.
considered. You know,
But honestly, I know you plugged it earlier, but genuinely go check out On Three and subscribe to that. They do phenomenal. Corey Bender has been. I know you're not Corey, but that's the same crew. We're gonna have Keith on Wednesday.
listen.
Just from a
Oh
recruiting
yeah,
aspect, it's been really cool to just see. It feels like again, there's a lot of great momentum with a lot of big time names, and that Corey has been writing about. Again, you have been writing some phenomenal stuff. And I talked about one of your articles. I was like, I got to talk about this, and I'm gonna ask you questions because I'm very intrigued about it. But there's so much information. Is again, I feel like we talk so much on the show. We're like junkies at this point, and not only the articles, but just the forums alone. There's just so many nuances that are happening. If you just want to be invested in Florida sports, not just football, you guys write about basketball and baseball too. That there's just so much information there. It's great. So I know you guys kind of battled through a lot of nonsense. I know I was talking to Keith about that with just the back and forth with recruiting, but you guys do a phenomenal job. The whole
yeah,
thing
yeah,
does a
man.
great job.
If there's a national ranking that comes out that Florida
Zach's
fans
like
don't
this.
like, boy, their Gators Online is catching strays.
It's brutal.
It's
I
all
was talking to
good.
Keith. I was like, look, I was like, y'all. I feel bad for y'all. Y'all are just writing articles, having a good time, and then poof, national media comes in and it says, "Screw your good day." We're dropping a list. We're dropping a list.
Hey man, the Florida fan base is feisty. It is what it is.
So it makes us great. We talked about that. It makes us the craziness. But look,
Yeah, I
so
mean, obviously the reaction to me coming on this show says it
oh
all.
my
Like,
gosh, dude.
um,
I was getting death threats in the comments. They're like, "This is ridiculous. Why would you even tease us like this?" I was like, "That was phenomenal." Like,
yeah.
I knew
Look,
exactly
now in hindsight, would I have done that again?
timing.
100%. 100%. I mean,
I loved it.
well, come on, guys. Like, this isn't state secrets here. Like, we're here to have fun, folks. This is college football. Like, I'll tell you one thing. I'm never gonna ruin anything. Number one. Or that's probably number two. Number one, I'm never gonna lie and say something that's not true. I promise you guys. So if you hear it from me, read it from me. Um, I'm not going to ever, mislead or misrepresent a situation. But we're here to have fun. But I do think that this was different, uh, and pretty significant.
I think it was
And
handled
just the
perfectly.
fact that it even came together, that it was on the table, that that is where this thing is trending in terms of the interest in the job and the consideration for it from Florida side. It's all encouraging things to see, in my opinion.
I think where people have to misunderstand or understand here is like, imagine you don't say anything at all, and this thing kind of comes and goes. Like, these are one of those cool stories that I want to hear about. You know what I mean? So the way that we teased it of a possibility, and the fact that kind of you unfolding it, which is even great. You circle back. It's like, hey, I got confirmation is why I even kind of let it on. But there was still so much more that had to be done that we can't talk about it officially yet. And then, of course, once it officially happens, you even said, and I was kind of surprised when I read it too, but that you wrote about it because, like you said, you typically don't write about a wish wash, mish posh interview.
Conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But because of the circumstances, we won't talk about it. And so I think
Well, in the
that
name. I mean,
100%.
like,
That's what I meant. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's just, and certainly personally for me, that's the first coach I ever covered extensively. I actually I
Too
covered
cool.
Urban Meyer actually his last year while I was at UF. But yeah,
So Will's your guy.
that was not
Okay.
that was not a. I tend to forget that season.
Like I said, I love Will. I was at the Mizzou game, his last game when he got booed off, and I hated it, but I was on the same
Uh,
boat because it was just so bad. But he was. I remember just watching those seasons, like Mike, if he could just get an offense together, what we could be like that. Those defensive teams, unreal, unreal. It was so fun. It was fun to watch, but like hurt all at the same time. And I loved his passion, just his swagger and his energy. Just the crazy eyes on the sideline. Like you can't make that stuff up.
well, and let's also say I gave Napier some credit for his consideration of this when it came about. It also says a lot about Champ, that he doesn't hold any grudges against Florida.
True,
That like he would come back and work at a place that he got fired from.
true.
Uh,
And that
yeah,
he
he
was
must really look.
then intrigued by it.
Yeah, I mean he must have really loved Gainesville. He must have really loved the people that he worked with in the UAA, and he must really like what Florida's doing under Napier to want to come and work on his staff.
I kind of talked about that the other night with the amount of talent that's coming in. People were kind of getting irritated with this OC news, which I'm going to pick your brain a little bit. But I want to dive into this just for a little bit. You wrote the article
Sure.
about the front office changes and the GM coming in and the salary cap and all these things that are unfolding.
It's a whole new world.
Dude, it's crazy. It is crazy to watch. And I feel like I try to explain it from like a fan perspective. Like, I think this is way more important than it could be leading to just because it is very new and fresh and so many moving pieces. But I think this is what Florida is trying to do, kind of what I was interpreting from your article is the right thing and has a lot of, potential to be really good in the future. And is that spot on there or am I off there?
Yeah, no, it's. I think that Florida's got a good grasp of what this needs to look like and how they're going to go about it. They've got a plan in place for a front office. I do think it's going to go from the top down, and whoever they hire for this first lead role will probably be responsible for making some of the subsequent hires. But as we reported, Gators Online, it's not going to just be this one person. There's going to be multiple people that are taking on all these new evolving things in the sport from a rev share standpoint, from contracts and figuring out what percentage of the rev share salary cap needs to go to offensive linemen, defensive backs, quarterbacks, who's getting paid what. I mean, it's a huge math problem that somebody in a staff of other people that have experience in this arena need to be able to come in and handle for Florida. And July 1st is when this thing goes into effect, and Florida's going to have a projected 20 mil plus to work with, and they're going to need to manage that money the right way, because that's going to change how they do business as a football program. It's going to change how they do business with NIL deals with Florida Victorious. It's going to change then the need for them to get actual endorsement deals that are coming from outside companies and big brands and industries. Like, it's so nuanced and there's so many layers to this thing.
So with that 20 million cap is
around.
okay.
I mean, it could be more.
So that's going to be across the board, from my understanding. When I read the original like a month ago, and that original, like, that's what everyone's going to have. Do you know if there's like a penalty if you go over it? Like, how are the details around that? Do we have that yet?
I mean, there's no way to go over because it's the rev share that you're getting from the SEC.
Oh, it's what they're giving you to pay the players.
Sure, yeah, it's from the TV contracts.
Oh, wow.
You know?
So Florida technically isn't paying the kids anymore.
The rev share for the teams that play in the SEC is going to be bigger than the rev share that the teams in the ACC get.
Wow. So the SEC is about to get even stronger.
How significant is that number going to be? Not a huge amount, but
it could change over time. Now, okay, that's huge. Number one. Number two,
I do think the SEC is going to be the top dollar for sure, and Big Ten will be up there.
Yeah, Big Ten. I mean, look, we're out this year. Oh no, we got Texas. So that money is being provided to the school, and then it's up to the school, which is where this GM hire comes into play, to divvy up that $20 million per player, per person.
And my understanding is each school individually can decide what it wants to do with that money. You're going to have, I do think that every single school is going to have to probably put 70 to 75% of that cap into revenue share into football.
Oh, so it's for all sports.
Otherwise, you won't be able to compete.
Yes,
I do think where you'll see some differentiation is where are there going to be some schools that put more into men's basketball than others? Are there going to be some SEC schools that put more into baseball than others? But we're talking about percentages here. Like, some might put for 10%. Basketball 10%, 15%. Another one might only put 8%. For baseball, one might put 3 to 5%. One might only put 1.5% of it. And then every single sport.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
This is crazy.
Every single sport now will still get some portion of the pie, but including the non-revenue sports. But they are not going to get a lot of that money. It's revenue share. It's going to go to the revenue sports. They're going to get the majority of it, but because of Title IX purposes, they are going to have to cut some checks to, the non-revenue athletes, and rightfully so. I mean, it shouldn't all go to football, and I mean those revenue programs at the end of the day, they fund these non-revenue sports. So, I mean, that's how it's always worked.
I like that. I think it kind of. I've been saying that it's got to change because it's the Wild Wild West right now. So that's very interesting. And I was kind of talking about how this will affect a school like Ohio State and Oregon, it's been pretty vocal that they've been just throwing their load. And this NIL fund that's been raised by Ohio State now goes by the wayside, essentially, because now the only way that they can get paid NIL, from what I read, by the NIL is through legitimate deals, which was how it was intended in the first place, right?
Well, no, they can still get. They'll still be collectives. Florida Victorious ain't going anywhere.
Okay. That was a big question we had for Nate Barbera when this all came out. Like, how does this impact them?
Yeah, I think as I wrote in that story that you referenced at Gators Online, NIL deals are, I think, once revenue share goes into effect, NIL deals from booster backed collectives, I think, will continue to be a thing, and they'll continue to be high paying. But I do think that they will be less prevalent and more reserved for the high-profile athletes, i.e., starting quarterback, the starting left tackle, top player on defense, elite freshmen, top transfers. Like, there are certain guys that are going to command market value that the rev share that they get from the school is not going to cover.
Sure.
Like, whatever check that Florida decides to cut DJ Lagway from the rev share that it gets, and whatever percentage that they decide to pay to their starting quarterback, it's not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough to cover what he's worth. So Florida victorious, and then is going to have to bridge the gap, and then certainly any other endorsement deals that he can get from outside companies, industries, i.e. Gatorade, will just sweeten the pot. It's just more icing on the cake. And that's what Florida is creating this in-house marketing agency for. Is, okay, yeah, our top, whatever, 30, 40 players are probably going to have NIL deals with Florida Victorious. Right now, that number's like 60, 70. I do think it's going to decrease. But Florida's also creating an in-house marketing agency to also get more brand deals, true NIL deals, what NIL was intended to be.
Yeah.
Endorsements, marketing. So I think Florida's trying to get more in that space and use the University of Florida and the connections that they have and all the people that are employed around the country and around the state that work for all these companies, tap into that. Get these guys to do some more endorsement deals and marketing opportunities. Again, it just gives them more extra income, because that's NIL is going to change and the market for it is going to change. So you're going to need to get more endorsement opportunities from things like, Hellman's Mayonnaise, which is what Jake Slaughter's doing this year.
It's a legendary.
I mean, what a great partnership.
So the big change then from what we're doing now then is it sounds like the schools are going to be getting some assistance in them paying the players, right? Because right now,
assistance in how so?
Well, because right now, the only way they're getting paid is through NIL and collectives, and the school is coming up with that
Correct.
chunk of money, right? From the school. So now the NCAA or the rev share is providing 20-ish million, and then now, so it's taking 20 million off of the school's plate because they're still going to have to come up with the money that they're paying these kids, essentially.
Sure, but right now Florida's not responsible for any of the NIL money that is funded the football rosters for the last however many years. It's all Gary Condren and Hugh Hathcock and some of these big time donors that have stepped up, and there's a lot of them. Those are the big names that everybody knows.
Yeah.
They have funded the Florida football team. It's not the University of Florida and the UAA and the profits that they make from their TV deals that they have with the SEC and ESPN. That's what starts in July. Now all of a sudden Florida is going from not contributing anything, and they can't in the NIL space.
Yeah.
But in this revenue sharing world, they are now compensating players that way. And once that happens, it alleviates some of the pressure from these boosters that have had to basically carry the load here these last couple of years. And if you were a school that didn't have big time guys like that to step up, then tough luck. You weren't going to have a big NIL roster.
Sure.
Now I think that those efforts and those funds they'll still be there, and those guys are still going to step up for Florida Victorious. I just think that the way that money is allocated and how it's prioritized and how many deals that they hand out is just going to look different.
Sure. Okay, look, I think it's all positive for the sake of Florida, just given the fact that you said handful of guys are shouldering the weight of this funding.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, shout out to those guys, man. They don't get enough credit. And I know they don't want it. I know they don't ask for it, but man, if some of these very successful people that graduated from the University of Florida did not step up in the way that they did, like, man, these guys would be hitting the portal left and right, and that would be a terrible look for the University of Florida.
I think a
You
lot of
know,
people overlook that because again, it's murky. I think people have their assumptions of what it is, but it is just a group of guys. And I try to explain this too. It's like when we hear news and stuff too. It's like, look, there's a plethora of boosters. There's like 4 or 5 guys that really move the needle. Okay, those are the guys
yeah,
with the information. There may be 5, 10 guys underneath them that feel like they have a hand in the pot and a word at the table. But when push comes
and
to
they do.
shove, they do. Push comes to shove, that word goes away very quickly. So that's just kind of how I've tried to explain
There's
that.
some donors that have their names on buildings.
Yeah, yeah. So look, this is all cool stuff. I think it's all very intriguing to unfold all this. I do before I let you go, Zach. Again, this has been. It's always a blast getting to pick your brain and talk about this, but. The OC stuff, I talked about it yesterday a little bit about piping down and chilling out a little bit. And people were kind of, I guess, ensuing that there's talk that we would hire an OC if he were to be kept, which from my understanding, there was no official word of that. That was just kind of hearsay. Have you heard anything, or is it kind of just how it's been, just radio silence and like it could go, it could be nothing for an OC?
I really think it's. I know options are being considered, and
Okay.
not just for that specifically, but what Florida's maybe in offensive staff is going to look like in general. It's not hide from the fact that there's 4 assistant coaches whose contracts expire at the end of this month, and 3 of them on their offensive side of the ball. And we've reported at Gators Online, and I said it the last time I was on your show. I expect some staff change. I don't know what that's going to look like or where it's going to be at, but I do think that once they work their way through these contracts that have to either get renewed or not, that's going to probably dictate where they go from there
Okay.
for a potential play caller, more offensive assistants. Like, as in most scenarios, when somebody comes in as a play caller or an offensive coordinator, they typically want to hire their own offensive line coach.
Yeah.
And, so like there's so much that has to get worked out. Rob Sale is already the offensive coordinator at Florida and has that title and has that pay grade. So it's kind of very similar to Ron Roberts in a way. Like, you don't know what that dynamic is going to look like with a new guy coming into the room. How does that work out from a staffing standpoint, from a hierarchy standpoint? Like that. I think literally that is getting figured out as we speak.
And I think the people were like panicking, like, "Oh, you got serious? Like it's taking forever." But like you just said, there's multiple people up for an expiration at the end of the month. It's also been reported by you guys on 3 about having the GM hire plus multiple front end hires, right? That front office, which like you just said on the show, are probably going to have a hand in that next movement, right? They're going to be part of that conversation moving forward. So that all has to happen first. And I think I don't know, we get impatient, but there's still teams in the playoffs, which there's people that are intrigued, that are intrigued by that. The NFL is still happening. The NFL season just
That's
ended,
the key.
right?
Yeah.
That's where the eyeballs are, is the
Look,
NFL. Let's look at the NFL, okay. That
think
just
about
ended.
this. Where are some of the recent hires that Billy's made come from?
Starts with N and ends with L. And F's in the
So
middle. Will Harris, there was 2, right? The strength, or not strength and conditioning, but the special teams coordinator. He was from the Patriots. I can't think of his
yep.
name.
And then
Chapman.
they're
He had
one of their strength
NFL
coaches.
experience, I think,
Correct,
right?
he did. And then one of their strength coach and new nutritionist as well that they brought over from
That's right.
Washington.
That's
So
what I was thinking of, the Washington guy.
he likes to tap into the NFL, and I think any coaching additions that he makes to his staff are going to have NFL candidates considered. And I think if he decides to bring in a new coordinator for defense or offense, there's going to be a lot of consideration that's taken into that. We all know how meticulous Billy is. He measures 5 times and cuts once. He's just that kind of guy. And I think that would probably be one of the last things that gets figured out in terms of the staffing that he does in the offseason. But I will say that I think they're going to get through this month of, the portal wrapping up and finding the last spots in their 25 class and let these contracts expire at the end of the month before we're going to get a lot of movement on the coaching front. So,
and no reason to panic on that. Tell everybody to simmer down. We're all cutting once. We're all measuring once, cutting 5 times. Okay, so let's just simmer down. Let Billy measure 5 and cut once. That's what I try to explain to people. I said, look, I don't know where you're going. The season's 10 months away. Relax. You can't call any plays right now, anyways. What's important is getting Tyler Miles back. That's the next guy to take over. He's going to be the guy that has him for the next 2 months. Okay, so no OC can do anything. Recruiting is,
and consider this possibility is if they did bring in someone on offense or defense to coordinate things from the NFL level. Some of these guys maybe could even be coaching in the playoffs.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say too.
If that's something that is has to play out before that option can be explored and considered, there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean something's going sideways or they're not working on this process. Sometimes you got to wait until guys can interview for the job. So we're
getting Dan Campbell for DC. That's what I heard. We're back.
Let's not make that go viral. I'd have Corey Bender mad at me because he's a huge Lions fan. Shout out to CB.
Yeah, them boys are cooking. Them boys are cooking for sure, man. Well, Zach, I mean, this has been. I think I took way too much of your time. Please tell them again where they can find you guys. Go support the boys, the Gators online. I know y'all get frustrated with the national online list, but these guys, man, they're cooking. They're grinding. Keith, Corey, and Zach. That's all you got now, right? Just 3 of you. Not missing anybody?
Yeah, we'll got some more coming too.
Okay,
little teaser there.
Family's growing. Oh, here we go. Muschamp's coming right back, boys. Muschamp's coming right.
That's really where this thing was trending.
Tell me they find you, man.
Oh yeah. You guys definitely come check us out at Gators Online. We don't stop, man. Even in the off season, we got around the clock coverage of the teams here at the University of Florida, recruiting on all fronts. Big one in the O-Dome Tuesday night against number 1 Tennessee. Can't wait for that. I'll have updates all night at Gators Online, and you can get in the door for just $1, folks. And as Shelton mentioned, all the different coverage and things that we have on our forum. It's a great community. And if you haven't come check us out, you're missing out. You don't have to wait for me to come on here again. To hear some more from me.
It moves quick, man. I mean, those again with Bender's always dropping little nuggets on recruiting. Keith's dropping nuggets on his golf trip. I mean, whatever you need, they've got it dialed in. But
and I want to say too before I get on here, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. Like, look, I know our national things on the national side sometimes frustrates fans, but like rankings are never going to have everybody agree with them. You're going to upset some fan base. You're going to not always get the rankings right. But I will say that we have people in our industry and on our site at On3 that have kind of paved the way for recruiting coverage, and those guys do a great job. Like, for every ranking or rating that you can complain about, there's a bunch that they get right. They had Eugene Wilson as a 5-star at On3, and no one else did. And also too, like, the idea that On3 or I guess any major network for that matter would try to sabotage a certain school and fan base. It just makes no sense. Like they've invested so much into Gators Online and our great team that we have. Like that would be hustling backwards if they were trying to do that on the national side. So I think that those guys do a great job, and our recruiting database and system that we have, and industry comparison where you could look at where our guys are ranked against 247 and ESPN, like it's awesome, and that's it's one of the reasons why I joined On3.
Yeah, look, like I said, I appreciate you guys. We poke fun, we have fun with the national rankings as well too. But like you said, I mean, everyone has their thoughts and opinions, and sometimes they get it wrong, sometimes they get it right. To be fair, I think part of it too is you guys crank out a ton of content compared to someone like a 247, and it's in the sales world, right? We've got a guy who's the number one sales guy. He has a lot of cancellations. Well, he has the most because he also sells the most. So when you're pumping out a lot of content, there's also a lot of there could be there's more feedback, not always positive too, which comes along with it. But yeah, you guys are always on the ball and on top of it. So I appreciate it. And I always appreciate you guys coming on here. Again, we're going to have, I think, Keith on Wednesday to talk recruiting, because the recruiting seems to be heating up for 2026. We're in full swing with
it's
that.
fun, man. Like, this is, I've been covering the Gators since 2010, and I still have fun with this job. Like, the fact that I get to cover the Gators and go to the swamp and the O-Dome for work, man. Like, they get better than that.
Old.
Right now, it's
yeah.
Oh man, and like right now, it's fun. Like, Florida's coming off a 4-game winning streak. Like, basketball's rolling, recruiting's hot, transfer portal's still going. Like, it's not a boring job.
I was thinking about it today. I was kind of a little manifesting. I go, listen, right, with what we're working with right now, I was like, we're in the process of creating a Swamp Kings too. You know what I mean? Like, this is like what it could be. And like 10 years from now, I was like, shit, Netflix might give me a call. Like, hey, I know you were in the middle of it. Let's go talk about it. How cool would that be? My dumb ass, I'm like 80 pounds heavier, talking about the good old days for Swamp Kings too.
It would only be right if you went on there with the spacesuit.
Like, let me tell you about this time. It would be iconic. That would be. I'm manifesting it. So yeah, look, it's cool, man. I enjoy it. I'm blessed to be able to do it, and it's not even nowhere close to what you guys are able to do, but just to get a little taste, it's always a fun. And getting to chit chat with you, man, and pick your brain, because again, I try to read and decipher, and I read at a 3rd grade level, so I don't always pick it up as well. But getting to ask you and talk about it, man, it's great. So I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, and Happy New Year to everybody out there. And we'll keep chugging along at Gators Online. The news don't stop, and we'll be breaking more.
I love it, man. Go Gators. Thank you. Happy New Year.
Take care, guys.
Yes, sir. Boys and girls, fantastic information. Don't go anywhere. We're just getting started. we got a couple more things I want to go over. I do want to talk about that basketball game. Again, huge shout out to Zach. A lot of information there. I mean, that was great stuff. Him telling the story of Dan Mullen, or Muschamp, and how that unfolded and what it came to be. And look, I think there's a lot of little nuggets there that should excite you on what's happening. A lot of moving pieces are moving, which we kind of alluded to yesterday. So to get more confirmation on that, you got to feel good about that. Again, I've told you before, I don't always like knowing everything. I don't like always having a ton of knowledge, because when I'm talking and I'm actually telling you, like, hey, I'm reading tea leaves, I'm giving you my true opinion, my true hypothesis. Like, it's literally me just sitting there trying to, figure things out and talk as if you and I were talking one-on-one, right? And if I have the knowledge, if I have the answer to the quiz, then it's a fugazi, it's made up, it's not real. So I really don't always have like a pulse on things, and I like that, because I like to talk through that and have a genuine thought on this, and hopefully you guys appreciate it too. If not, shoot me. But yeah, great stuff there. I didn't get to talk about the basketball game on Saturday because I got blocked on Twitter on Saturday, and usually I vent my feelings out, but I got blocked on Twitter because Big Cat from Barstool tweeted I got Kentucky -3, and I responded, I hope you choke on your lunch, and immediately got banned for hate speech, whatever. Wasn't that bad, I didn't think. Anywho, I didn't get to vent, and I've never been so irate. Not only did I put my mortgage on the Gators to win money line, if them boys don't learn how to shoot a damn free throw, okay, I'm driving to the O-Dome myself. I'm running sprints with them. We're going to figure this thing out. I mean, that's like day one stuff. Like, that's like making a 3-foot putt. Like, if you're in the pros, you don't miss 3-foot putts. You just don't do it. It's not allowed. You don't miss free throws. Not that many. That was egregious. That was uncalled for. I don't know what happened. I don't know what was going on. Disgusting. You allow 106 points? That's gotta get fixed. That's got to get fixed. I was just, we talk about basketball more. Great game tomorrow. Maybe we'll do a reaction after that game. We probably will. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, so that was fun. I wanted to talk about that a little bit because I mean I haven't felt that way watching a Gators basketball game in a long time, which is fun. Again, those games at the end of the end of the day, not the end of the world. Really felt like we should have won that game. Wanted to win that game. Great opportunity to learn, but you want to see Todd and the hype behind it really kind of hammer home. Tuesday, another opportunity at home. You got a must-win game, in my opinion. I know, obviously, the season doesn't come to a close, but I want to see this team dialed in. I want to see them be able to go over the hump, beat the number one team in the country. That's what those boys absolutely just curb stomped Arkansas. I mean, this Tennessee team is legit, and so I want to see them battle tested. They were battle tested against Kentucky, but I genuinely feel like they just beat themselves. So we're left to see the turnaround. Of course, show is brought to you by Prize Picks, boys and girls. I think we fell short on that Monday night lineup, but coming back to you with another one. Look, right now, it's playoff time. It's now or never. Don't miss out on the last few weeks of football action with Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching the playoffs. I love being dialed in to playoff football and being able to play Prize Picks during this time because it's just high intensity, lots going on. You got to think the less is probably the move because these games are so just everyone's buttholes just so tight. But I'm a more guy. I love cheering for the more. That's just how I That's how I function. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks, and Prize Picks now offers MasterCard for quick and easy deposits into your account for this sports season. I got this lined up for the Saturday to kick off. Lamar more than 49.5. Love that. The guys are running the ball over the place, and I think with playoff in his wheelhouse, the guy's going to have to move. This Pittsburgh's going to throw a lot at them. I think him moving the ball with his feet is going to be huge. Harbaugh, I love what that man is doing out there in LA. I think it's so cool. I love Harbaugh. He's such a goober. I can't get enough of him. I just want to eat him up. You're like, just bite his cheeks. He's just so cute out there. I don't know. I know he's a grown man, but he's a goober. More for 231 yards for Justin Herbert. That man has been slinging the rock, been playing some great football. I think Harbaugh's going to put him into a great place. And he's also been slinging that rock to that rookie from Georgia. I know y'all hate when I say it, but Ladd has been doing his thing. Hey, that rookie class for wide receivers, Ladd and Ricky P, fantastic stuff. Keon, but those two guys, first rounders, by the way, have been balling. Great pickups for both of those teams, although the Niners fell short. One of those guys got shot and still played better than the other guy from the other side of the pond. But Ladd, more than 72.5. And then Russell Wilson, he's a dud. Sean Payton absolutely roasted him. I'm talking about why he picked Bo Nix. Fantastic stuff. I loved what he had to say. Basically saying, look, nothing's changed, just the quarterback's changed. And here we are. But I think Russell throws for more than 200. I think that game's going to get out of hand. I think Pittsburgh or Baltimore's going to run away with it. And Pitts is going to have to sling the rock. And 200 might be a shoe-in. I could be wrong. It's going to be cold, kind of like it was against Bengals. But he still threw for over 200 in that game, too. More than so. Take a look at Prize Picks. Run your game. Use the code HIGHTOP. When you play $5, you get back $50. Okay? All you got to do is play 5, you get 50 back. You don't win or lose. You play your first 50. Play your final bucks, you get 50 back. When you use the code HIGHTOP, Prize Picks, run your game. Now, we were just talking to Zach about these contracts that are expiring. And the way that he made me feel is that we probably won't see somebody coming back. Maybe, possibly. I thought by these pictures that we saw today, which has Coach Jaluk, Coach Rob Sale, right? In these photos, I know DeCoster's on the trail. I know Billy Gonzalez is on the trail as well. Didn't get photos, but I know those guys are on the trail right now, recruiting. That it was maybe an early say that these guys will be rocking with us. But again, I don't know because of what he just said. Because again, there's so many moving pieces. That's why I tried to kind of talk about this yesterday. Everyone's like panicking, like nothing's happening. All of this football season is kind of coming to an end, right? Plenty of interviews are going to be happening. We still have playoffs for both NFL and college, but like Zach just said, the NFL probably is where your eyes should be. And we just had, multiple coaches fired today on Black Monday is what they're calling it. Doug Peterson, thank goodness. Jared Mayo, that one was kind of crazy to me. I've seen like from left field, it looks like it's Venerable's job to lose. But I thought this was kind of an early sign. So we'll see. Again, so much is going to be happening here in the next few weeks. And I thought I had tea leaves. Look, this is what I just told you. I don't know anything, and I kind of try to just read into this. I had this prepared before Zach threw that curveball at me. So this is what I thought when I first saw this. Like, oh, these guys are locked. There's no way they're going anywhere. But again, I even said, I go, the Rob Sale one's an interesting one because his title contains offensive coordinator and offensive line coach, which obviously, right, is a big ordeal because of what it pays. So I have also been saying about the DC thing, and people were like, "Oh, there's no way we go through a DC." I'm like, "Well, it just doesn't seem to be because I know Ron Roberts called him, but he's not technically the DC." There's some super chats that I missed. Let me read those really quick. I apologize for missing them. Rookie says, "For the homies watching Raw on Netflix, but wanted to stop by and say what's up." Hey, appreciate it, Rookie. I know that was on tonight. I was wondering how we would bode with that. I know there's some fans that watch the show that also like wrestling. I'm not a big wrestling guy, but I know there are some. Anthony Ponce, $5, and then he put another one. $10 says, "Hey, show my first super chat. I just got to tell you, this is my favorite Gator info show. I respect the hustle and want to support." Well, Anthony, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for the super chat, both super chats, and for your support and for being your favorite, man. That means a lot. I appreciate it. A lot of great content out there. So for us to be up there at your top means a lot. Means a lot. Yeah. So this was again, I thought I had some smoke here, but apparently I don't have any smoke at all when it comes to this. And then this happened today. I want to talk a little bit about this. There seems to be a little bit of smoke. The streets are talking. Edge, Damian Wilson. Keep an eye on this one. Doesn't mean anything's going to happen. Just watch him. Just hit the portal today. And again, we talked about this. Everyone was panicking. A lot of talent still left on these teams that were in the playoffs. Okay. Here are his PFF scores. Shout out to our boy Dave. Has a PFF subscription. Now, first year didn't play too much. You can see 2024 played a lot more. That bowl game, that last game, tackling numbers are fantastic outside of a few games. Coverage played, says edge, but he played a lot of left outside linebacker. Talked to my Georgia guy today because when this happened, was giving him a little flack about it. He goes, "Oh, yeah, it's one of our linebackers." I think he had like 22 tackles, 3 sacks. I was like, man, 3 sacks for playing that outside linebacker position. Kind of what Pyburn was playing probably, right? Drops back into coverage a lot. Sometimes he'll be brought in. Had 2 forced fumbles and 2 fumble recoveries. So I would say all in all, a pretty healthy season, kick and play. And this is only his first true season of playing because he didn't play last year. So very young, kind of gives me like a Pup Howard-ish feel, right? Of like somebody that's like kind of had a healthy year at that particular school. Very young, a lot of years still left in him. And this would be a great addition if we're able to go after him and pick him up. I think, again, just smoke. Who probably end up at A&M next week, if I had to guess. But this was a big one. Again, we know we need some edge help, just given the circumstances. Another big thing too that did not drop today that I thought would. I was hoping. I had a graphic ready either which way. Tyreek Sapp, today is the last day to announce whether or not they'll be going to the NFL draft. Devin Moore is another one that hasn't made an announcement because technically he can go to the draft. So I assume he's staying because the big focus is Tyreek Sapp. People have talked about that. Where is he going? Will he be going to the draft? I assume since it hasn't dropped that he would be staying. But like anything, he may have submitted his papers, but just hasn't announced it. So I'm not going to put any weight into that on where he is going. But that's something that we're still waiting on. We're still waiting on. I meant to ask Zach about that, but we had so many things that we covered that I forgot. Pay those bills, Shelton. Yeah. Probably when I was reading the Prize Pick. Look, man, Prize Pick, they do well for us. We appreciate them supporting the show. And look, I appreciate you guys letting me read those ads because they do help support the fam and do what we're able to do. So, and allow me to continue to bring you guys great content. Muddy says, well, I wonder if Billy would even consider bringing an assistant who ditched us for the NFL. Didn't 3 go to the Cardinals? Yeah, the first DC. I can't think of his name at the moment. We do need 300 likes, Steven. You're right, Bubba. You're right. As a Dolphin fan, Hill can leave. Legit quit on the team. It's unacceptable. Yeah, he's a bum. I've been trying to tell my boys he's a bum, but nobody wanted to listen to me. Now, truth comes out. I just don't think Hill got that dog in him. Softball hit pretty well last season and absolutely loaded this season. I don't know what you're talking about. I saw something that I wanted to read, but now I don't know where it went. What's the big news? I don't think I put big news, but there is a possibility that Muschamp was going to be coming aboard, and as of now, it seems it's not going to be happening. So, multitasking Raw and High Top. Oh, so you're watching Raw and High Top. Love that. Yeah, I mean, the one's on Netflix and one's on YouTube, so it's definitely possible that you're able to manage both of those. Well, ladies and gents, yeah, my Vikings lost last night, and it was awful. Look, I put 50 on the Lions money line, Rick. I'm sorry. The Vikings did not look good, though. They didn't look like Sammy did not look prepared. The Lions look like they are hungry and they are ready to eat, boys and girls. I'm excited for these playoffs, and they were really, really exciting. A lot of young talent with Jaden Daniels, with Bo Nix. Excited to see what Baker's going to be able to do. The Buffalo and Chiefs obviously look very far. I think the Packers give Eagles a fit. I think that's one to keep an eye on. I really do. I think the Packers are a very sound football team. And I think the Eagles, I just think there's a cultural problem there that's going to come to fruition come playoff time. Could be wrong. Might eat my words on that one, and they might go win the whole damn thing. But just keep your eyes. I think the Vikings might get upset on the Rams. I don't know. I don't want to say that. I would like the Vikings to win. I think you're headed into a Rams territory. Veteran quarterback, veteran coach in that scenario with Sean McVay. Excuse me. I think they're kind of playing at a high level right now, kind of clicking at the right time. I don't know. Yeah, Rams will beat the Vikings. Cody, suck it. Yes, I don't know. I hate to be that guy, but it just feels like that's what's going to happen. Just kind of given how the last few weeks have unfolded, momentum is not in Vikings territory right now. I don't know. Do not know. I think the only one thing that's a kind of a shoo-in. I think Chargers steamroll Houston. I think Houston's just not it. I think they got in off a shitty conference, and I think Baltimore just skull drags Pittsburgh. That's why they're both Saturday game. But yeah, y'all be good. Fantastic show on this Monday. I mean, by golly, miss Stephen Harris. Hopefully he'll be back for next week for Champs Corner. I assume some things will be happening over the next couple of weeks, so you know what to do. Smash the like button, subscribe, turn the bell on, because in case when those things do happen, you know where to hear it. We'll talk about it. We'll have fun with it. It'll be a great time, as it always is. Show is, of course, brought to you by Prize Picks. Use code HIGHTOP, boys and girls. I love y'all. Be good. Peace and love. Stay safe. We'll see you.